Tonight on The Big Story, we're learning more about the fatal school shooting in Tacloban, which police say could have been premeditated. Guardians of the two minor suspects may also face possible charges for the tragedy. Another discussion coming out of this incident, lowering the age of liability for crimes, especially for heinous ones. But experts on child care call for caution. On the looming trials of father and daughter, former President Digong and Vice President Sara Duterte, the ICC tells lawyers to argue the case in court, not in media. While the VP's impeachment pre-trial conference could extend, as marking of evidence is taking a while. Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon. We begin with the Tacloban High School shooting. Investigators are still piecing together grim details and motive of this crime. Already, there are calls to try the young suspects as adults. But are they criminally liable? All these in tonight's big story from mobile journalist Jazz Paredes.
Authorities first attributed the deadly Tacloban school shooting to bullying, but further investigation into the incident reveals chilling new information. Authorities are now slowly piecing together details which show that this was not a random act. That the two suspects, alias Nash, aged 14, and alias Rod, 15, both students of the San Jose National High School, planned and acted out their shooting spree. Police say the minors hatched the crime a month before. Among the evidence being looked are the screenshots of supposed messages between the suspects. Then, what could be more clues? The shirt worn by Nash. The clothing had on it the name of a band allegedly linked to foreign school shooters. Alias Nash also reportedly engaged in an online gaming app known for violent storylines. The Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center has already temporarily banned the game.
Si alias Nash ay heavily influenced po ng online content. Meron po kaming nakita na aside from his own post na mga violent videos, meron pa pong tinitignan tayo na iba pa pong grupo or mga kinakasalihan niya kung saan na pwedeng nag-udyok sa kanya para gawin po ito.
Interrogation of the two suspects likewise led investigators to one eerie observation.
Mahirap po mag-conclude regarding their state of mind. Pero siguro lahat-lahat naman po tayo nakita natin yung pictures. I don't think that there's any remorse on their part. Pero yun nga po, hindi po natin mababasa yung kanilang kaisipan.
Based on police backtracking, the two young suspects came to school early Monday, June 22. After the flag ceremony, alias Nash went to one of the school's restroom where he met alias Rod. At around 9 a.m., the shooting started, leaving 3 dead and about 20 more injured. 40 spent bullet casings were also found in the crime scene. Most were from the Glock 9mm pistol used by the younger suspect Nash. Only one came from the .38 caliber pistol held by Rod. Investigators are still looking into how the teens managed to bring the firearms into the school, but they have tracked where the firearms came from. The Glock is the service firearm of Nash's aunt, who is a police staff sergeant. She is now under restrictive custody.
Yung pong ating poliswoman, yung po sa 9mm, ay voluntarily subjected herself to the investigation kung paano po ito nakuha. Ongoing pa po ang alam natin na pagkakaalaman natin kung paano po napunta sa kamay ng kanyang pamangkin.
As for the .38 pistol, it is believed to belong to Rod's grandfather who used to work at a security agency. Authorities are still looking for the elder. In a statement on Tuesday, PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. vowed that the agency will pursue cases against both gun owners over the incident. For his part, DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara visited San Jose High School to meet with the teachers as well as the families of the victims of the shooting incident. As Angara ordered stricter nationwide campus security measures, he also called for deeper guidance and understanding of children's behaviors.
Hindi lang siya peace and order problem. Tingin namin, kailangan i-manage din yung mga bata kasi parang exposed sila to a lot of violence online. Tapos marami wala rin magulang.
The Tacloban shooting is the third act of violence carried out on school grounds in just 1 week. On June 16, a grade 8 student stabbed 7 grade 5 pupils with a kitchen knife at a private school in General Trias, Cavite. On June 19, a senior high school student was stabbed at a school also in Cavite. On June 19, a senior high school student was stabbed at a school also in Cavite. Now calls for stricter law enforcement and regulation have mounted, particularly on the law that deals with crimes committed by minors. Under the juvenile justice law, a child aged 15 years old or below at the time of the crime is exempt from criminal liability, though they are still mandated to be subjected to an intervention program. The same applies to suspects above 15 but below 18 years old, unless proven the minor acted with discernment, in which case, the child shall be subjected to the appropriate proceedings in accordance with the law.
Itong dalawang na-involve sa kaso na ito ay hindi dapat pinapakawalan. Hindi totoong walang pananagutan. Maari pa nga na matanggalan ng kalayaan, involuntary confined for a minimum of 1 year. At doon naman sa may edad na lampas 15 anyos o 15 and above, kung alam na niya ang tama at mali, pwede siyang sampahan ng criminal case. Kung murder yan o homicide yan, mananagot. There is accountability. Merong pananagutan.
The law, however, also states that the parents of young offenders may be held accountable if found negligent in fulfilling their responsibilities under the law. The Tacloban shooting has once again given rise to calls to amend the juvenile justice law. Proponents want the minimum age of criminal liability lowered to 12 years old. According to Palace Press Officer Claire Castro, President Bongbong Marcos is open to the proposal. The palace is also open to banning violent online video games that may have influenced the suspects in the Tacloban school shooting. The PNP also supports lowering the age of criminal liability.
Kung ito naman ay magiging mas makakabuti sa ating mga kabataan at sa pagpapatupad ng ating batas ay sasang-ayunan naman po ng Pangulo yan.
We studied yung data, yung statistics po natin, medyo tumataas po yung nai-involve na mga CICL, yung mga children in conflict with the law. Kaya po sa amin ay titignan rin po naman kung may acted with discernment, di ba? Hindi po naman, kumbaga, arbitrarily.
The juvenile justice law now in the spotlight again. Let's discuss this further with the Executive Director of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council, Tricia Oco. Good evening and welcome to the big story, Attorney Oco.
Good evening, Ses.
All right, the incident in Tacloban has now once again brought alive the calls to lower the age. What do you think of this call by many sectors, including the PNP?
Well, first of all, Ses, I just want to say that we are deeply, deeply saddened by what happened. And ayun, nakikiramay po kami doon sa mga naapektuhan at nawalan ng mga mahal sa buhay dahil doon sa nangyari. But right now, the JJWC is still of the position that it's not the right solution to this kind of problem. You cannot punish your way out of a school shooting or any kind of violence if you just look at yung age threshold. Kanina may mga discussions tayo doon before, not in this show, but there had been discussions about comparing it to the Columbine shooting. We should take a lesson from that kasi if you look at the Columbine shooting, actually the minimum age of criminal responsibility there was at that time in 1990, that was in 1990, I think April of 1990, it was just 10 years old. But it didn't prevent the kids, actually one kid and one adult, to do the mass shooting in the Columbine High School. So dapat ang titingnan natin dito is, alam mo yon yung what are the half of the solution is finding the right problem to solve. So ano ba talaga yung problema dito? So let's look at the root causes of violence. And I don't think it's because of the minimum age of criminal responsibility. In fact, yung Colorado ngayon, they raised their minimum age of criminal responsibility to 13 years old. And they were the ones who experienced the Columbine shooting. So we think na it's not going to deter just by punishment. You have to look into the root causes of the violence.
I would liken this also to the argument to bring back the death penalty. when there's
Yes,
a resurgence of crime, right?
But yes, by the way, Colorado also already abolished its death penalty because at that time, no 1999 and I think between 90 to 1999, they were really focusing on being tough on crimes, but it looks like it didn't work. That's why they're changing now. They're now focusing more on rehabilitation. So let's not make the same mistake, but learn from other countries and jurisdictions. You know, the U.S. is not even a signatory of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, but it's also trying to focus on rehabilitation now. Hindi naman ibig sabihin nito hindi natin tutukan yung mga victims because they need support and they need to heal. Pero we just need to find the right solution to this kind of problem, which is yung violence that the young people are committing nowadays.
The council is about 10 years old because this law is, well, 10 years old.
Yeah.
Can you cite to us cases where youth were successfully rehabilitated?
We just got the data from last year. Children below 15 years of age, that means you can't file a case against them. And they underwent rehabilitation, the rehabilitation process. We got this from I think 60 to 70% of our Bahay Pag-asas, they were committed there. And 96% of them, around 400 children po ito says, 96% of them actually got rehabilitated and only 4% are still under the rehabilitation program because it's still not, they're still trying to progress. So,
All right.
hindi
So
pa siya
96% is a very good rate of rehabilitation. How about those who were charged at the age of 15 and above, between the age of 15 and 18, right? Because between the ages, right, they can still be criminally liable.
You're right. Yes, they can. The focus is also on rehabilitation, and we have a lot of success stories on these kids. Na they were charged of crime, and then later on they got rehabilitated. But there are also some, not a lot, who went to prison because this rehabilitation was not successful. But this is what we saw based from yung monitoring namin. Usually, younger children have bigger chance of rehabilitation than
Hence
young
the
people.
argument, hence the
Yes,
call to bring it to make it lower.
Actually,
That's actually the reverse.
the reverse, yes.
Yes,
po. Oo,
the
kasi,
reverse.
okay, back to the Colorado, lesson. What they saw, tinatawag nila doon is snowball effect. When you criminalize a child at a very young age, between 10 to 13, usually what happens is when they grow older, they keep coming back and getting incarcerated again and again. So naging siya, snowball effect.
Okay.
So they
So that's
decided
the
to focus on
argument against
rehabilitation.
lowering the age
Yes.
of criminal liability. But let's go back to the statistics. For those ranging from 15 to 18, the statistics are lower, but what are they?
Actually, I don't have the statistics. I'm just saying, I'm sorry, I don't have it now, but I can post it on our website later on. But
Okay.
usually, rehabilitation is also successful. Pero compared to, I was talking about kids between 18 to 21 and below 18. Usually, yung mga 18 to 21, sila yung mas nagiging
Mahirap na.
recidivist. Mahirap na. But they're actually, of majority age. And I'm not sure if it's because they don't have the same kind of rehabilitation programs the way a kid would have kasi nga nasa kulungan na sila. Pero sila yung usually recidivist, and that study is, you can find it as a pattern in different jurisdictions, not just ours.
All right. Now, the myth is that underage children are not detained, cannot be detained if they commit a crime.
Yeah.
So this is a myth,
This
right?
is a misinformation.
But where
yeah.
are they kept?
They are placed in Bahay Pag-asa. That's also, we don't call it a detention center because we want to be sensitive about it, but it's actually a detention center
So we
because,
should call it Bahay Pag-asa.
yeah, we call it Bahay Pag-asa to be sensitive and we don't want to label the kids.
Yeah.
But it's a detention center in the sense that when the child is committed there, they will take away that child's liberty. So hindi siya malaya doon. He or she cannot go out freely. The parents cannot get him or her out whenever they want. Wala, mga visitations lang, etc.
They
But
cannot
no
leave
freedom.
Bahay Pag-asa.
No, they cannot unless the court orders otherwise.
Okay.
Or
This the Bahay Pag-asa was the result of an amendment, right, to the law in 2013.
Yes,
So
in
how many such places do we have?
we have 117
Oh,
operational Bahay
quite a
Pag-asa in the
lot.
country. Yeah, that's a lot. But
Is that an indication also of the increase in the involvement of the youth in crimes?
Not necessarily, because the Bahay Pag-asas are just a response to comply with what the law is requiring. But if you look at the statistics now, yung police PNP statistics, we have them 10 years yung kinuha namin, says the pattern is it's really going down. We took that 10-year pattern from 2016 to 2020 at 2025. Dun sa 2016, it was around 20 plus, 24, 20,000, I'm not sure anymore, pero nakapost siya sa website namin, but
So,
it's more than
bumababa.
20,000. And now, nung 2024, it's only 5,000 and now it's 8,000. So may konting uptick, but generally, it's really going down. And I think it's because of the efforts, not just of the national, but mostly local governments, because they've been establishing a lot of prevention programs in their at the local levels to prevent these kids from coming into conflict with the law.
And the detainment in Bahay Pag-asa would last for how long? Is it the court that
Yes.
determines that?
Yes, yes.
And
It
what's the
depends on the
longest?
court.
What's the longest time?
So far, ito siya, it really depends. But this one, I know for a fact, he was placed there, but this was not a court agreement, but only agreement among yung community and the parents. Nilagay siya doon at 10. He went out at around 19 because he cannot go back
Wow.
to the place to his hometown due to the request of the victim. So, yun.
Wow, 9 years.
Yeah, it was 9 years because he did not have a place to stay. So tinuruan na lang siya ng independent living. It's not an ideal thing to do kasi dapat hindi sila lumalaki sa
Anong
institution.
klaseng crime po yun, if I may ask?
It's a serious crime. It's a very serious crime.
All right. Now, what is the influence of social media, and should we not now consider banning youth at a certain age from having social media accounts, or even, looking and engaging in social media?
Well, I'm not sure about the total ban, but definitely they should be regulated. Kasi when you talk about social media, all the information you can get from there, even as says na tayong mga adults, di ba? Minsan naloloko tayo sa mga misinformation and disinformation sa social media. We access things na normalize yung violence. And we have our minds na matured na, pero ganun pa rin. How much more a kid who does not even have the capacity to process those information properly. So there has to be a regulation of some sort. Or, well, perhaps siguro, depending on the age, dapat may age na nababan talaga siya. I think we should pick a leaf from other countries like Australia, Scandinavian countries who's already doing these.
Okay. Now let's go to these kids. One is 15, one is 14. So the 15-year-old will now be facing criminal liability?
Yes, it's conditional because they have to determine if he has discernment, and I think they're doing that right now. But I think baka makakasuhan siya kasi usually children na above 15 na, they usually have discernment. Yes, so baka makakasuhan siya ba, pero ayokong pangunahan yung ating court.
Okay.
Ayokong pangunahan
I'd like to
yung ating
ask also, how do you determine discernment? How is that measured?
There's a tool. Yeah, it's the social worker who measures it. There's a tool, it's a scientific tool that they use, but you don't do it just by yung parang one thing, sit down ka, tapos i-interview mo, that's it. Usually it takes mga 2 to 3 weeks to do that. Gagawa nila yan ng parang case study report. They will go to the area where the kid lives, interview the family, etc. So it's a parang medyo tedious
It's
process actually.
comprehensive. It's
It's very
comprehensive.
comprehensive too. It's very
The
comprehensive.
14-year-old will be likely going to a bahay pag-asa.
Most likely because the crime is grave. It's serious.
What are the conditions of a bahay pag-asa? Ano pong itsura? Mukha ba siyang preso or bahay lamang na
the
medyo limited
requirement-
lang ang movement mo lumabas?
Well, the requirement is it shouldn't look like a jail.
Okay.
It should have a home-like environment and it should be rehabilitative, not only dun sa physical niya, but also there has to be programs. But the kids are actually locked up din bahay pag-asa. Hindi sila nakakalabas. So, yun. But it should be home-like and rehabilitative in nature.
And
Kasi we don't want kids to go out of bahay pag-asa not rehabilitated because it will also redound to the public safety, to the safety of our community.
And those who are there are social workers and not from the Bureau of Jail.
No, not from the Bureau of Jails. It's social workers, house parents. Sometimes they have psychometrician. Ideally, they should have psychologists as well. Pero mahirap maghanap ng psychologists. May mga teachers din na pumupunta doon so that they can continue their education because we don't want them to go through a pipeline of violence again by
Right.
removing education, removing the family connection, etc. So talagang ang mas focus siya sa rehabilitation.
And what is the profile of those who are in Bahay Pag-asa centers throughout the country? Are they mostly from the poor?
A lot of them, meron din sa malaki yung impact ng economic status nila and as well as educational level. I'm not saying that if you are poor, magko-commit ka ng crime, but
But
it's a
they're more
factor.
vulnerable.
To commit crime because of poverty as well as yung educational status. But siguro yung karamihan talaga sa kanila, they've experienced violence themselves or violence is normalized.
Likely these kids in this case, although it's still being investigated, could have been victims of violence.
Probably, or they grew up in a they grew up in the community where violence is normalized. And ano pa ba yun, usually most of them have dysfunctionality in the community or family.
So Senator Robin Padilla is pushing for the lowering of the age to 10 years old. And I think that is so also in the UK.
Yeah.
And Wales. In England and in Wales, the age is 10, although the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child puts it at 14, right?
Yeah, it's 14.
So are you
That's also the
amenable
average.
to lowering to 14? We are at 15.
It won't be progressive if we do that because we've already reached the high minimum age of criminal responsibility. It's okay to discuss this. Maganda naman siyang i-debate talaga. But before we talagang yung focus on the age threshold, let's look first at what really causes kids to commit violence.
And perhaps look at other measures. Like I said, maybe putting an age
Limit, yeah.
for use of social media.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because it seems that it's still early, but there are positive reports from Australia, at least, which was the first country, right?
Yes, one of the first ones. Yeah, I agree with you. But like what I've said, right solution for the right problem.
But it's good
Otherwise,
to debate this issue. You are right.
yeah.
Even the president is open to lowering the age.
Yeah, I saw in the news. I saw it here actually.
So it must be disheartening for you.
A little bit, but we can discuss it because anyway, as long as we're open-minded, everybody's open to the discussion and will really listen to each other's point of view, then we can discuss it.
But surely we must help these kids to be able to, be productive citizens. It's too young to give up on them at that
Yeah.
age.
Yeah, and also if you look at the law, it's really focusing on rehabilitation because it has practical reasons to do that. Itong mga kids na ito, they're the ones who will be here when we grow old, wala na tayo. And when they go back to the community needs to be safe when they go back there. So they have to sort themselves out. We have to help them sort themselves out na maayos sila pagbalik nila.
All right, we thank you for enlightening us on this issue, Attorney Tricia Oco, Executive Director of the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council. You're watching The Big Story in One News. When we return, we hear from both the defense and prosecution on the seeming holdup in the impeachment pre-trial briefing.
If they will agree na isang document lang, isang examination lang, no? Isang permahan lang, as to the time which will be spent, it will be diminished by half.
The opposite is true. The opposite is true. It was actually the private prosecutors who lacked a certain personnel for the marking of the exhibits.
Bilang isang ina, mahalaga sa atin yung may pagkain sa table. Even if we cannot eradicate poverty, at least we hope that this little thing will help you in the days to come.
First Lady Lisa Marcos there during the distribution of rice aid to vulnerable families. Some personalities spotted during that event, former DILG Secretary Mar Rojas and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno. This is still the big story on One News. Will the pre-trial conference for Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment end on June 25 as planned? House prosecutors are doubtful. The reason? The marking of evidence is taking a while. The defense team refused only one mark for all pieces of evidence, even those similar to the prosecution's. This is why prosecutors are calling on the Senate, sitting as the impeachment court, to assign more personnel. There are about 4,000 documentary evidence for marking, and that's for the confidential funds issue alone. Another option, extend the pre-trial conference until Saturday, June 27, so trial can begin by July 6 as scheduled.
If they will agree na isang document lang, ibig sabihin isang examination lang, no? Isang permahan lang, so that will be, as to the time which will be spent, it will be diminished by half the time which is actually being spent when marking common exhibit but separate documents.
But the defense team says the delay is not their fault. In fact, they point out the Senate Secretary already doubled the marking stations for Article 2 of the case, Duterte's alleged unexplained wealth. And there are 3 stations covering documents for Article 1 or confidential fund use. The VP's lawyers are open to working until the weekend for the pre-trial.
Actually, I was there personally, and the opposite is true. The opposite is true. It was actually the private prosecutors who lacked a certain personnel for the marking of the exhibits. So they just appear in the morning, and then they leave, and then they leave the rest of the task to the private prosecutors who are handling the case.
Well, meron kaming way of marking, hindi ba? But to give you an example, a very concrete example, kanina may insidente na may isang may document ang prosecution, may document ang defense. Purportedly, it's the same document, obviously, pero kulang ng isang page yung version ng prosecution. So, doon namin gustong ipakita kung bakit kailangan minamark namin yung sarili naming ebidensya.
The impeachment court is looking to release the pre-trial order by June 25, which is a roadmap for the proceedings. One thing that the prosecution and defense teams agree on, senator judges should already resolve the voting threshold for the impeachment. Under the Constitution, 16 out of 24 senators need to vote to convict an impeached official. In other news, resigned Ateneo men's basketball head coach Tab Baldwin appeared before the National Bureau of Investigation this afternoon. This is part of the probe into the drowning deaths of student athletes Rene Baterbonia and Divine Adili. Baldwin is among 20 individuals subpoenaed by the NBI over the incident. He declined to answer questions from reporters, but a lawyer spoke on Baldwin's behalf.
We come before this office in the spirit of full cooperation, in full compliance with the subpoena, and in order to shed light on the incidents of June 8, 2026.
For his part, NBI Director Melvin Matibag said they are aiming to complete the fact-finding phase this week. That's before submitting their recommendations.
Every statement, importante po yan. Actually, that's why I don't want to give a partial or initial report na sasabihin ko, pwedeng ganito, ganyan. We want to finish the investigation. What we are avoiding here is maging parang personal or political yung basis.
Aside from Baldwin, several have already given statements to the NBI. That includes assistant coaches Dean Castaño and Sandro Soriano, former team manager Epok Kimpo, and Ateneo student athletes. Meanwhile, Baterbonia will be laid to rest in Talacogon, Agusan del Sur tomorrow. Adili's remains, on the other hand, will be flown into his hometown in Nigeria. Now on to the weather. Typhoon Francisco maintains its strength as it crosses the Philippine Sea. The eye of Typhoon Francisco was last spotted 330 kilometers east of Calayan, Cagayan. Its winds, as strong as 125 kilometers per hour, extend up to 360 kilometers outwards from the center. Signal number 1 is still hoisted over Batanes, the northeastern portion of Cagayan, and the eastern portion of Babuyan Islands. The typhoon's periphery, coupled with a southwest monsoon, is also causing rains over other parts of the country. That includes Palawan, which experienced flooding due to the sudden heavy rainfall. Glan, Sarangani, which is still reeling from the effect of the magnitude 7.8 quake on June 8, also suffered massive rainfall. Floodwaters even reached evacuation tents. Meantime, Pag-asa is monitoring another weather disturbance, a tropical storm with international name Higos. This is still outside the Philippine area of responsibility. There is medium chance Higos will enter PAR and have a direct effect, but if it does, it will be called Gardo. And on a lighter note, there's a new kind of garden at the Rizal Park. Mobile journalist Daniel Dayao tells us about it.
Modern, smart, and sustainable. That's the future of urban gardening here at the Luneta Park. From leafy vegetables to herbs and even Japanese muskmelons, the redeveloped Luneta Urban Garden is showing how produce can be grown, even in the heart of the city, with the help of modern farming technologies.
So yung nandun sa loob ng greenhouse natin is yung Dutch bucket technology. And then itong auto-dosing, ito yung bagong implement na inilagay natin doon. We put in some simple technologies that will be easily adapted by urban farmers or those with interest sa gardening.
Relaunching just this year, the garden's greenhouse uses an automatic dosing system that helps regulate water supply and nutrients needed by the plants, reducing the need for constant manual monitoring.
Ito po ay autodoser. Siya na po yung automatic na magtitimpla ng nutrient sa tangke na ibibigay sa halaman para less na po yung 1 hour na makukonsume. Connected na rin po siya sa phone. Pwede nyo po siyang ma-control through dashcam.
For the Bureau of Plant Industry, the technology is not just about making farming easier. It's also encouraging younger people to take interest in agriculture.
Baka kasi mga kabataan natin ngayon, ayaw na nilang magdukal ng lupa. So we have soil-less farming. We have, yun nga, yung auto-dosing technology. Ayaw nilang magdilig ng 3 or 2 times a day. So we can have sensors that can sense kung kailangan ng diligan ng halaman o kailangan ng lagyan ng fertilizer. So,
But beyond attracting a new generation of farmers, the project also supports a bigger goal, strengthening food security.
ang basic principle is to have food production systems sa smallest unit ng ating which is the barangay. But we cannot do it alone if we want to make it massive. So even yung ating mga listeners or viewers na kung gusto nilang mag-participate even individually within their communities or families, we're ready to help them para to teach them the right way to plant para tuloy-tuloy.
As Manila continues to grow and space for traditional farming becomes more limited, officials hope urban agriculture can help bring food production closer to communities, proving that even in a highly urbanized city, farming can still find room to grow.
Pagka meron kang food production system sa cities, medyo nababawasan yung logistics cost mo, freshness ng iyong gulay na andyan lang sa tabi mo, a few meters away from you. So, it can contribute to a better quality of food produced. Baka maka-encourage siya ng mas healthy living. And I think, yun yung gusto nating gawin.
Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
This is the big story in One News, and next, Vice President Duterte said the Tacloban shooting could have been prevented if the Marcos administration only has proper intelligence gathering, something the palace spokesperson tweeted.
Napakagaling niya magbigay ng suggestion at dapat ay tinuruan niya ang kanyang ama para ito ay na-prevent. Di maiiwasan ng mga ganitong sitwasyon, especially sa pangyayaring ito, mga estudyante, mga minor de edad, hindi terorista.
Si alias Nash ay heavily influenced po ng online content. Meron pa pong grupo na pwedeng nag-udyok sa kanya para gawin po ito.
Hindi lang siya peace and order problem. Tingin namin, kailangan i-manage din yung mga bata kasi parang exposed sila to a lot of violence online.
Tumataas po yung nai-involve ng mga CICL, yung mga children in conflict with the law. Kaya po sa amin ay titignan din po naman kung may acted with discernment.
Now, still on our big story tonight, the school shooting in Tacloban. DepEd has raised the alarm over violence, but what triggers minors to commit such crimes? Now, let's bring in Dr. Summer Parcon, Associate Professor at UP Diliman Psychology Department. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening, Ses.
You know, what happened in Tacloban is really shocking to all of us. And the idea that bullying can spark violence in minors, how do you explain how this affects a child psychologically?
Siguro we need to see aggression and violent tendencies as a very complicated concept, no? Hindi kasi siya linear na pag nangyari ito agad yung outcome. So we need to see violence as a very complex, cumulative, interactive behavior. Kumbaga maraming pwedeng mag-cause ng violence, hindi lang basta-basta bullying. Maraming iba't ibang mga bagay na pwedeng maging rason para dito.
But we have to point out also, Doc, that we rank quite high in bullying in schools in many studies. In fact, merong study that shows us ranked number 1.
Yeah.
Have you noted this also in your research into families, for instance?
Yes. Totoo naman na bullying has a lot of negative effects on the children, especially in their mental health. It causes certain anxiety, lalong-lalo na kapag hindi na pa-process to, wala siyang nasasabihan. So I think yung mga bagay na ito kapag nag-bottled up, at hindi niya na proseso, maaaring magdulot ito ng some aggressive or violent tendencies.
Bakit po kaya mataas ang rate ng bullying sa Pilipinas?
Mm. Totoo naman, no, kahit may mga studies, even pre-pandemic, more than 50% na of Filipino students reported being victims of bullying. And I guess maraming factors dito, but yung isa ay yung kawalan ng perspective taking. Nawawalan din tayo ng pakikiramdam. Hindi natin na nakikita yung nararamdaman ng mga biktima nito. So parang sa atin, akala natin okay lang.
Kulang tayo sa pag-iintindi sa mga bata. Parang gano'n. Is it
Tsaka
from
siguro-
the home or the school? Who lacks this capability to empathize, ano? Parang empathize.
Empathy.
Oh.
Lack of empathy, lack of perspective taking, tsaka yung normalizing itong aggressive tendency. So akala natin okay lang. So yung posibleng dahilan nito, karamihan nakikita natin mula sa pamilya. Yung dynamics ng pamilya, ng violence sa pamilya, child neglect, child abuse, no? Pero minsan nakikita rin natin to sa school kasi nakikita natin na yung bullying nare-reward siya sa school. Hindi siya nare-reprimand or hindi rin siya napipigilan ng mga teachers. So akala ng mga bata, maaari, akala nila
They can
okay
get
lang.
away with it or it's normal. So it's a societal problem, no?
Yes. So, hindi lang siya individual problem, systematic din yung problem eh. Makikita natin sa pamilya, sa school, pati rin sa neighborhood. So again, yung violence hindi siya very linear, hindi siya very causative, interactive yung cumulative and interactive yung possible causes nito.
Now, Doc, the DepEd has raised the alarm over copycat behaviors like in Western school shootings. Is this a real threat?
It is kasi lalong-lalo na sa mga bata. Kasi kung hindi ito napoproseso sa kanila, maaaring makita nila na meron tayong tinatawag na contagion effect na matitrigger na okay pala to, na sensationalize siya, it gained attention.
Parang
So
sumikat pa sila, parang ganon.
Oo, pwede ko palang gawin. So ang problema doon ay we have to be careful about sharing and spreading this kind of stories, lalong-lalo na kapag walang context at hindi nalalagay yung pagproseso nito.
Okay. So, for us in media, how would you advise us to handle such a story?
So kailangan maging careful tayo in the words that we use, especially in portraying, for example, the suspect. So marami ako nakikita na nasi-share na nandun, hindi man siya mukha nung suspect, pero ma-identify natin. We have to be careful about that. Even yung mga violent videos that are being circulated around, we need to be careful on how we show it so that the children will not mimic or see na it's glamorized or sensationalized in media.
So not just us in media, but in traditional media, but social media.
Especially in social media.
Yes. Now, this brings to mind the move. Well, I just see it as one of a solution to limit or to bar minors from social media.
It has been a very active discussion kung ano nga ba yung effects ng social media, at ito ay pinag-aaralan din at pinag-aaralan pa. So, hindi pa natin nakikita kung ano yung specific age kung saan pwede nang gamitin yung social media. But what we see in research, napaka-importante nung co-regulation or processing of the social media content with the parents or with the adult. So kailangan pa rin may adult supervision.
Okay. I've two last questions. Could this also be a result of, OFW families? Kulang na sa monitoring ng mga magulang. Binibigay kumbaga parang tiga-alaga na lang yung mga or kamag-anak who have other children. Is this also a factor?
Definitely. Violence, aggression, in most of the research, ang isa sa pinaka-significant factor niyan ay yung family. Family involvement, parental involvement, monitoring. So, napaka-importante na meron tayong magulang na nandyan. Pero dahil Filipino family din tayo, hindi lang siguro magulang, but any adult that would help you in processing everything that is happening in your life as a child and as a teenager.
And finally, you're saying the copycat can be real because children or the youth cannot process what they're seeing. They think lang parang sikat sila rather than something to condemn. Is that a way of putting it?
Pwede kasing meron na silang naiisip na ganito. At kapag nakita na nila na nag-glamorize, nabigyan ng attention, na sensationalize, pwedeng mabigyan sila ng idea na pwede pala itong gawin. So, and like what you said, napakahalaga ng pagpoproseso ng mga information na ito sa mga bata.
All right, we thank you so much for your insights and for talking to us, Dr. Summer Parcon of UP Diliman Psychology Department. Now, in related news, Malacanang rebuked Vice President Sara Duterte. That's over her statements on the Tacloban school shooting.
Hindi sila mga terorista. Sila ay mga estudyanteng mukhang di umanong gumunlang sa online gaming na marahas.
Earlier, Duterte said in a statement, learners should be protected from radical influences in and outside school, even on social media. The VP highlighted protection against abuse, neglect, and violence, then proceeded to say the tragedy exposed the government's failure to identify threats before lives are lost. She called the fatal shooting a wake-up call to the Marcos administration. But Palace Press Officer Claire Castro turned the tables on the VP and her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Hindi po ba dapat kung napakagaling niya magbigay ng suggestion, dapat ay tinuruan niya ang kanyang ama para ito ay na-prevent. May mga pagkakataon po na hindi maiiwasan ng mga ganitong sitwasyon, especially sa pangyayaring ito, mga estudyante, mga minor de edad, hindi terorista.
Meantime, here are the other stories making headlines this Tuesday. The wrap from Mobile Journal, Fatima Baduria.
Iran has announced that they will now administer the Strait of Hormuz. That's according to Tehran's chief negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. He said the waterway will no longer return to its pre-war status and will be managed by the Islamic Republic of Iran in accordance with international law. The remarks came after the first round of talks between Washington and Tehran in Switzerland aimed at ending the conflict in the Middle East. Ronald De La Rosa's legal representative turned in the senator's 6 firearms to the PNP in Salang, Cavite on June 22. This brings the total number of surrendered weapons to 26 out of 117 registered guns under Bato's name. The PNP confirms the 6 firearms are now held by the Regional Civil Security Unit in Calabarzon for safekeeping. De La Rosa's gun licenses were officially revoked after the DOJ classified him as a fugitive from justice. That's due to an active arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court over crimes against humanity charges. 91 firearms remain outstanding as police continue to track the missing weapons. Over in The Hague, the ICC held on Tuesday, June 23, its second status conference on the case of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Much of the discussion centered on the court's reminder to lawyers regarding public comments about the case. Presiding Judge Joanna Corners said the courtroom, not the media, is the proper venue for discussing matters related to the proceedings. She said the reminder was prompted by previous media appearances of Duterte's former lead counsel, attorney Nicholas Kaufman.
We see no reason why counsel should feel it necessary to make any comment to the media. The appropriate forum for counsel to raise matters is in the courtroom. Trials are not conducted by the court of public opinion, but by this court during the course of the proceedings.
The ICC also called on both mainstream and social media to ensure accurate reporting and avoid speculation, particularly on matters discussed in private session. The foreign court also reviewed key deadlines in the case, including the submission of expert reports on August 18 and the registry report on August 24. Prosecutors have until August 31 to file their final trial brief and witness list, while the defense team has until October 30 to respond. The formal trial of Digong is scheduled to begin on November 30 of this year. Kapatid Fatima Baduria, we are One News.
And finally, in entertainment, from Hollywood to EDSA, dragons are making their presence felt. Here is a war in the Game of Thrones prequel from MJ Marfori.
A smoking billboard in EDSA, Guadalupe. A dragon head spotted in BGC. And the council clash of the dog show divas featuring the Good Doctor star McCoy Dubs and Baus Rufo.
Hoy, bakla ka ng taon, ba't mo ako nilak?
Award! Bwahahahahaha! We are truly being taken over by the Dance of the Dragons in the latest season of House of the Dragon. And of course, One News gives you the lowdown from the cast this season as episode 1 opens with the epic Battle of the Gullet. And in true Game of Thrones fashion, spoiler alert, a main character has already fallen in episode 1. Jace, come in. Explain why you left us.
I feel like Jace's arc has been happening since just like the beginning, and it's always been the same sort of motive. It's that he feels wronged. Well, his family are being wronged, and he feels wronged because of that. And he's trying to stop his mother from going on this horrendous journey, and she's already made mistakes in his head, you know, already. And the council and everyone is on Jace's side.
The House of the Dragon takes place nearly 200 years before the events of one of the most watched series in the world, Game of Thrones. The story centers on House Targaryen and the bloody struggle for the Iron Throne that divided their kingdom. On one side, Team Black supporting Rhaenyra Targaryen as the true heir to the throne. On the other side, Team Green, who believe Aegon should rightfully be king. The conflict sparks one of the biggest wars in Westeros history, the Dance of the Dragons, where even dragons battle each other in war. And one of the most vile characters this season, Aemon Targaryen, continues to stir chaos in Westeros.
Just chill out. Aemon just needs to take a chill pill, man. He needs to take a chill pill, find some love.
We're going to war!
Yeah, and you know, maybe just like get his dragon under control a little bit.
How surprising is surprising and shocking, or maybe mortifying this season?
Straight out the gates with 10, like episode 1. I was watching it last night, and that scene, I don't know if you can talk about it, but the scene went.
The latest season of House of the Dragon is now streaming on HBO Max every Monday and on Signal Channel 53 and Channel 210. MJ Marfori, we are One News.
And those are the big stories this Tuesday, June 23. I'm Cesorenia Drilon, kapatid. We are One News, your side all the time. Good night.